All right, so I'm ready to record a podcast. How about you, my friend?
I'm ready to record one of those things.
Right on.
Yeah.
I didn't know what we were going to talk about at the beginning of the podcast today. I didn't really plan anything. Normally, I kind of plan a jumping off point. Looking at myself in my camera monitor right now, I got this shirt because I thought, and this one is just for our video listeners out there. If you're just listening, in your ears, you might want to jump on YouTube. You don't want to miss this shirt. I got it because I thought it was going to be more of like a bartender kind of look, like a mixologist type of thing. But looking at myself now, my hair is a little bit long and kind of like swept back. I'm looking a little bit like Ace Ventura Pet Detective right now.
You're like you look like Wall Street guy goes on vacation to Florida.
Yeah, I do feel a lot like I'm on vacation right now. I don't know why I look like the hair is the Wall Street guy factor. Yeah.
You still look professional, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You still look professional. See, in the Zoom meeting that we're currently using to converse, you're kind of cut off by the head, so I can barely see you. But you look great, man. You look great.
And that's how you know. Yeah. Thanks, man. That's how you know it's a very professional podcast because we use Zoom for the podcast, and not like Discord or something like one of those, amateur ass gamer podcasts or something. No, I'm just kidding. I like gamer podcasts. Shout out to Wizard and the Bruiser.
Shout out to the Kind of Funny Games.
Oh, right, yeah. One of Michael's favorite channels, Kind of Funny.
That's right.
On YouTube. Check them out. Another thing that I want to check out here, the last time we had a song on the podcast, Michael took care of that. No, the last time we had a song, it was me, because I remember messing it up. In our episode with Broderick, we were just talking about how these are starting to blur together. In our episode with Broderick, I did The Darkness. Yes.
It was a good one. It was goodness. It was buddy. Goodness. I said
goodness. It was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. But I think today's is going to be a little better. I thought we'd take things to the next level. You guys can probably notice there's a bit of a different headstock over here. So we're ready to get into the song. And the first time we've ever used electric guitar on the PHOTOBROS. So hopefully it works out. I only have one mic, so I wasn't able to mic the guitar amp, so I just made it really loud.
Dude, I hope that like mid you playing, like your neighbor starts banging at the door, like shut up.
Hey, well, you know what? We got a podcast to record, so they're just gonna have to bang on until the podcast is done. All right.
Use it as like a metronome.
With your brother Michael and you're ready to go. Try to record a podcast, PHOTOBROS. We got a topic and a news story trying to tell you something, man. Dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Photography Brothers. I am your photographer, Jared Poirier. You're a very sad photographer. I didn't get any. I usually get a nice loud woo and an applause and stuff for my work. But I guess Michael's feeling reserved on the podcast today.
I didn't know the song, man. I didn't know the song.
Well, you can still give me a courtesy. Give me a courtesy woo.
Very good, very good. See, there are some intricate, unique vocal techniques that were used there that maybe are specific to the song that I didn't, I don't have that context. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? But I love that you did beginning to end, no mess ups or anything like that. At least from my perspective, spot on. I'll give you a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Yeah, guitar sounded great.
Thanks, man. Oh, it's a really nice guitar. I might buy it. Yeah. Oh, I should probably.
What is it? What is it? Tell the
listeners. It's a this is a photography podcast, but it's a PRS S2, I guess. The 22 fret version.
Ooh, 22 frets.
Yeah, it's a lot of frets, man. It's a lot of frets.
It's a lot of frets, man.
Yeah, but we're not here to talk about frets. We are here to talk all about photography, Michael. And we have a very interesting topic to get into here. At least I think it's interesting, and I'm really excited to dive in. Yeah, what's our topic today, bro?
Today we're going to be talking about what our next 3 upgrades or purchases are in relation to photography or video. So I think that's going to be an exciting thing to talk about. I'm curious to see what you have to say, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm curious what your answers are going to be as well. Yeah, when it comes to gear, I mean, I'm pretty happy with the gear that I have right now, but there's always, as you know, more gear that you can get, right? And I think, we've talked to this a little bit in the past on the podcast, but my personal philosophy towards gear is that you basically only buy the gear that you need, and if there's a way to kind of solve the problem or get the result that you want in a different way or a cheaper way, the answer can't always be, oh, I need to get some, like the minute that you run into a problem where you're like, oh, there's this limitation to this camera, or I want to get this shot, the minute that comes up and you're like, let me go out and buy more gear, right? Do you kind of agree with that sentiment that that's not always the right thing to do?
Yeah, and I think that's why I kind of use the word upgrade, because it's like, I mean, to your point, I think, you want to use your equipment as much as possible and justify that, and then, of course, you want to have a good reason for upgrading. I think this is an interesting topic because it's like, what, as we see ourselves evolve and our businesses evolve, the things that we like to shoot and want to shoot, and where we see things going, I think it's an interesting topic to kind of reflect back on and think, okay, well, knowing what I know now, what do I see as the next upgrades or things to add to my arsenal that's going to allow me to, and whether or not we're getting it today or tomorrow, it doesn't really matter, but it's like, what are those things going to be and how are they going to contribute? What I mean?
The 3 things that you say, you have to go buy them right now.
Oh,
we're going to.
Did you already order from B&H?
I'm picking you up, and we're going to go over to VizTech right after this. So I hope you picked inexpensive items.
No. I did not.
Yeah,
they're sort of.
Yeah, I think the really good reason to buy new gear is when you're getting into either like a new type of work, or you're really making a big leap in what you want to do, and it makes the most sense when there's obviously money behind it, right? Like if a really good example is if you get some, like a perfect example for me is when you buy like a little bit better audio gear and maybe some lights, and you're able to do video work. And then in addition to like the photography work that you're doing, right, you're able to get a little bit into the video space and increase your revenue that way, right? So I think, if that's the question, like I want to do videos, I need to buy like a lapel mic. I think that's a good choice. And yeah, I mean, just as an artist, right, I know that for myself and for you, Michael, especially, you're always trying to improve and get like that next level look. And unfortunately, sometimes you do try everything and you're like, all right, well, I guess I need to spend some money here. So yeah, so here's some things that we're going to spend money on. Do you want to go first?
Sure. And actually on that point, vice versa, sometimes you buy the thing and then you're like, it still looks the same, and that's when what you're talking about before comes into play, and you're like, well, maybe it was more of a me thing.
And this is why you need to do your research as well, right? So that's another big point. I'm glad that you brought that up. Like, just because you have this perception, or you see this YouTube video, or like your buddy says, hey man, like you got to get this lens, or you got to get this camera, right? This is gonna oh, it absolutely solves everything, or this gimbal, and then you actually get it and you're like, oh, turns out this is like A, really hard and complicated to use, or B, just doesn't give you that result that you think. Like that was definitely the case with me when I got my first Steadicam. Very quickly returned that and got a gimbal. so yeah, do your research and sometimes rent stuff and try it out. Try before you buy. There's lots of places even here in Toronto, quite a few places that will rent stuff for you. And there's always a money back guarantee at most camera stores. So if you don't like it, there's no reason to have to keep it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So agree. So on my first item here, this is something I've felt like I needed to upgrade for a while now. So I have a couple of constant lights. They are Neewers, and they are honestly like the cheapest like softbox like lights I've had or you can get. And now it's at the point where it's starting to break down. Things are starting to go on me. The brightness isn't where I need it to be when we're starting to shoot like a bit larger scale. And again, when you look at some of that newer stuff, it's okay. It's good. Start with it totally. But again, quality in general is starting to break down. So I think that longevity, looking to get some new lights. I'm looking at something called the Godox VL 150. Cool. I'd love to replace my current setup with 2 of those. I believe they're in and around the 450 to 500 mark. So they're a bit pricier, obviously, than paying $100 for the 2 Neewers. But again, doing more video now. Really want to make sure that quality is where I want it to be. Especially when when you do work that's kind of like in parallel with other companies. Your reputation, it's not just your reputation on the line, it's like who you're working with. And so I just want that to look good. It also, like, when you're bringing it in, you know what I mean, like when you're bringing your lights in and they're kind of like clingy and they're cheap light stands and lights, and it doesn't strike confidence.
Looks a little bit bad, when you have like the cheapest possible solution.
Oh yeah, man. And again, getting that brightness up, getting a bit more power, while also, I was considering, the fans, because once you start getting lights that are a bit more professional like that, you see the aperture lights in some of the Godox, they have fans, and then the cheaper you go in that kind of tier, you get louder fans. And so this was kind of that like nice spot where, of course, we shoot a lot of content like this, shooting podcasts, and of course, once COVID starts to lighten up as it is, I want to be able to use these lights in in-person interviews, and you can't have those fans going off. So that's my first one, is basically upgrading my light setup with some Godox lights.
Nice, man. I love that that's actually your first choice, because that's something that's come up a lot. I keep saying this. It's something that's come up a lot on the podcast. I guess we've been doing this a while. But like in terms of lighting being something that you should look at almost first and foremost, right? Like there's a lot of talk around, this body, that body. At the end of the day, people are talking about Michael's body. They talk about my body. I did actually get a little pump on it today. So hopefully people are talking about that. But when they're not talking about bodies, they should be talking about lights, right? After all, photography, videography, it's capturing light in your camera. And if you don't have any light, you don't have any information for your camera to capture. Look how many damn lights I've got. I've got the sun. I mean, that's a good light. I've got this candle, bunch of lights behind me here. So PHOTOBROS over here lighting it up. So lights are important, guys, and
they are important. Last point to add there also, my current lights don't dim.
No, get dimmable bicolor, dimmable bicolor at least. And I have my Q5 LEDs here, Michael, and I like them a lot. So
nice. What's your first one there, man? Curious to see what you have for starts.
Okay. Well, this probably won't surprise anybody, since I do quite a bit of photo work, and I do want to get into doing more of it. Actually, I'm actually starting to really miss just like a pure photo shoot. I've been doing a lot of video lately. I do love it, especially my video clients out there watching. Don't worry, I love it. But I do want to get a little bit of little bit of photo work going soon, but in general, I'm a video guy. So one thing related to video, in order to improve the quality of my videos, I've actually been renting these mics, and I think it's time to pull the trigger and buy some Sennheiser G4 lapel mics. So nice. These are a little bit of an expensive option, right? They are $800, and that's for one mic and the receiver that plugs into your camera. $800. It's pricey, right? So a lot of the shoots that I do are like interview style, sometimes with two people, and in that case, you're going to need some serious microphones. You're going to need two of them, and you're looking at spending about $1,600 there. So yeah, that's something that I'm going to be budgeting for and picking up those microphones. And why these particular mics? They're just like as far as anybody who I've talked to that like knows a lot of things about the topic, pretty much everyone says that they're like, when you're going to get a lapel mic to plug into a camera, this is the way to go. So the Sennheiser G4 lapel.
Nice, man. I think we've pretty much covered like in my opinion, the two most important aspects of video is, I mean, aside from having a camera, but I think putting more money into, like you need video.
You're going to have a really hard time without a camera,
but you can buy like a T3i and still have it look decent as long as the lights are good and your audio is sharp and crisp. So
very true, dude.
Yeah, good places to spend the money for sure. For my second one, I have a new tripod. I want to get a new tripod. Cool. I saw this one. It's actually in my cart, so I'm probably gonna buy this like fairly soon. It is a newer one. It's called the portable 70-inch, and basically it's just like the title adjusts based on like what height adjustment you want. And so this one goes up to 70. My current tripod goes up to about like 4.5 feet. I'm kind of limited there. It's very cheap feeling, and it's, I've had it for a long time. I feel like it's time for that upgrade. Also, there's no leveling on it, and the legs often, like, just based on the design, I won't dive into it. There are often moments where I find that I didn't realize the camera was, and it's not on the right level. So love that. And the cool aspect about this one is that there's an accessory piece in the middle. It looks like a normal tripod. You can unlatch it and pull it out, and now you have a monopod piece. So if you just want that like semi-stable but want to be a bit more portable with it, you can do that as well.
That's a really good feature, man. Yeah. And another thing, it's kind of funny, like we haven't even talked about a camera body yet. So I find that very interesting. Well, partially because you just bought a new camera body, but
yeah. I don't need one for a while. Like you said, I need a real reason to upgrade now.
Oh yeah. You need a real big one. I don't know. Maybe when we make our feature, then you might want to get one. But when we document our rise to podcast prominence in a documentary series, look out for that, guys. When we take over podcasting, we go to Joe Rogan's house, and Michael like grabs his arms and I'm hitting him, take that, Joe Rogan. Right? And then we take his microphone. He's got a nice mic too. That guy uses nice mics. We take all his mics, leave them there. Yeah, he could use a new setup. From what I hear, no one likes the new setup, but no one likes the new
mics
setup.
Are great.
He's like in the dark or whatever. Anyways,
yeah, he looks like he's like in somebody's lungs or something. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Anyways, yeah. So the next thing I'm gonna get is Joe Rogan's mics. No, the next thing I'm gonna get is So I talked about that I do a lot of video work. I mentioned that I do want to get into doing more pure photography stuff, and in order to do that, I'm going, and this part has props, so whoa, get ready. In order to do that, I think I'm going to need a little bit of a lens upgrade. So the two lenses that I have right now, I have my 17-240 f4 on my tripod right now. It's a little bit wide, but it does a pretty decent job for, shooting my YouTube content, stuff that I shoot for my clients, interviews and whatnot. And then especially
Solid
for real estate, I'm able to get that to like the 17, nice and wide, and in terms of focal length there, and it gets the job done. F4, again, it's not a great portrait lens, right? But in terms of video work and real estate and whatnot, it's working out for me, right? Cost me about $800. The other lens that I have is this Canon 50mm f1.8. So this lens is okay, and it's normally what I would use if I was doing some portrait photography. The thing is that it is a little bit crappy in some ways. So I'm starting to notice that, especially if lighting conditions aren't great, I get a little bit of grain in my photos. Not something that a lot of people notice other than me, but I just don't really like it. And I kind of think that at this point, I want to take things to a bit of another level. The other thing with this is that the autofocus is not great. So especially if you're doing any type of video, which I don't usually normally use this lens for. I'm excited about lenses right now, so if I start to screw my words up, that's why. Like the autofocus isn't great, and it's loud, and that disappoints me. So I was kind of looking into another 50mm lens. 50mm, obviously, because it's kind of like a good all-purpose lens. You can use it for street photography. You can use it for portrait photography. I don't know. Some people like to use 80mm lenses or like even 200mm lenses for portrait photography. And we call those people rich people with really big studios.
Yeah.
But for me, the 50mm I think is going to get it done. And as I was saying, like, do your research, right? That's kind of the big theme of today's episode about buying stuff. Don't just buy stuff. Do your research first. Had I just gone ahead and bought something, I was looking at the Canon 50mm. And again, these are all full frame lenses, as I have a full frame camera, obviously. I'm not a noob. No, just kidding. To my crop sensor homies out there. Respect. The Canon 50mm 1.4 was something that I was looking at. You can get them for under $500. The thing is, this is a really old lens. Actually came out in 1993. Again, that's probably not going to solve my autofocus problem. It might take really nice photos. In fact, people are saying that the focus wheel is really nice in terms of that like old school style of portrait photography. It's a good lens. I kind of want it to do video stuff too, so not really happy about that. So I also looked into the Sigma 50mm offering, and they have a 1.4 that you can pick up for about like $350. And people are saying some pretty nice things about this. Apparently, though, there is a bit of a problem with like some of them. Again, overall, the lens is fine, but there are just like certain individual ones that ship with like the autofocus a little bit messed up. So something to look out for. Maybe keep that receipt if you are going to pick one of these up. But I might grab one soon. If I probably for like my next big like portrait photography type of thing, I'll pick up probably a new 50mm lens. But this is a good opportunity to do a YouTube guy thing. Down in the comments, let me know what 50mm lens I should buy, or what lens I should buy for portrait photography in general.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, the 50 is like such an incredibly versatile tool, just because it's like it's so close to what you just see. And so when you're doing portrait, or even if you're just doing creative, like walking around, like on travel and stuff, it's so good for like just pulling up and shooting. I think you talked about like the lens that you initially were looking at that was based in the 90s, like or released in the 90s. Canon and Nikon are so privileged because they have such a deep portfolio of like glass that's from that era, and even 80s, and like although sure, like autofocus might not be as quick or quiet or whatever, man, are they like still really well constructed lenses with like the really high quality glass. Sony, they only started taking things seriously, obviously, once they started releasing these mirrorless things, and so we have a little bit less of a lineup to choose from. But that's a good one, man. I also want to upgrade my 50.
Yeah, in terms of used gear like this, if you've got full frame camera with that EF mount, like as Michael was saying, that thing's been around for a while, and you can get some pretty cheap gear, right? And people are upgrading, there are advantages to being that DSLR guy, which I'll have to stop talking about whenever I do decide to buy a mirrorless camera, but for now,
yeah, man. But hey, that plastic, fantastic. Gotta love it.
Man. Listen, this thing, like I've taken some great photos with this, and I do love it. But it's just sometimes, and 1.4 would be nice. It's just way more light, right? So
yeah. Okay. Well, my last one is a bit less of a need, although I see value in it within my life, and that's a drone.
Oh wow, okay, holy crap, I'm surprised by that, actually. That's cool.
Yeah man, I think me and my girlfriend had a lot of plans to travel during these past couple of years, and we're definitely going to take that opportunity once things clear up again. And we have a big trip with my family going to the Azores. I'd love the opportunity to bring a Mavic Mini too, something that is so easy to pack into your camera bag, ultra portable. It's not as expensive as some of these bigger guys.
Like $500.
It's like 400 to 500. I think the two, not too bad. I mean, when you look at what you can get with it, of course, photography, you can get some great bird's eye view shots. You can get some great video footage if you'd like. It's an additional business offering as well, so that's something to look at. I've only been asked to provide it a couple times, but maybe, once you start providing those examples in your portfolio, people maybe start looking at it and thinking about how, you can use that to capture some of their business needs. And then the last thing I add here was just it's another option for creativity. It's just another part of your arsenal. Again, not as much of a need, but just more of something where I can see that value.
Yeah, man. No, that's a nice option to have that, and it also kind of fits in with that thing of like justifiable in the way that it's going to get you more work, right? Like you could conceivably get a drone and then like pay for that drone the next day because you booked a gig and then you shoot and then right? And people do they do like when you have that capability, and it does give you a real flexibility, and immediately will make your content stand out, right? Like next time you're reviewing some band on YouTube, and then you have like the drone flies in and drops a mic in your hand and you're like, all right, this is Michael Costa.
Right. Hey, well, right? but then again, like we go to the Azores, we go to a couple places, you get those shots, you put something together, and now you reach out to some of these tourism places and try to get some gigs that way too, right? It's just something you can capture while you're out enjoying and documenting. But what's your last one, man? Curious to know what you got there.
Well, thank you for asking, Michael. So I've got, I think, a great last one here. It's kind of a trick last one because it's kind of like an either or situation. And it is a camera body thing. So for all you camera body heads out there. So I like my Canon 6D Mark II a lot. We've talked about it here. Takes amazing photos, crap load of megapixels. The only real weakness that I find with this camera, there's two, and they're both video related. So doesn't shoot in 4K, right? The 1080p thing. I usually shoot in 1080p and edit in 1080 anyways, so I'm kind of okay with that. I do wish it was a lot better with video in low light. If it was less grainy, that would be a real plus for me. And the thing that like really annoys me, there's three things. The thing that really annoys me about the 6D Mark II, obviously they put a microphone jack on this camera. For some reason, Canon did not put a damn headphone jack on this camera, which is super annoying. So if you want to be able to like monitor your audio, you have to like get an adapter and put like black, whatever that thing's called, Black Magic or Magic Dragon or whatever the heck it's called. That weird, crazy
Magic
firmware.
Lantern, I think.
Magic Lantern. Thank you, Michael. Dragon Lantern Magic. Anyways, you can tell I'm frustrated by a few things with this camera, right? So I love it, but there are some frustrating things, especially on the video side. So one camera that I have been looking at, even if I did buy this, I wouldn't sell my 6D, I'd keep it. But the Canon R6, mirrorless camera, full frame. Gotta say, pretty impressive footage I've seen from these things. I do know a few people who use them. Kashif, friend of the podcast, Kashif is a proponent of the mirrorless Canon systems. I think he did own an R6 at one point. They're expensive though. $3,300 is a lot of money. So what I might do instead is just get another 6D Mark II. I kind of want.
That's not the answer.
I want to have two. Well, it helps to have two cameras, right? When you're doing like interview style stuff. And like I said, if I did get an R6, then I would just keep my 6D. Michael doesn't like that answer. He really wants me to upgrade. He wants me to go mirrorless, and maybe I want myself to do that as well. But it is a big price difference, more than twice the money. You can pick up a 6D Mark II for like $1,400 or so. So, yeah.
Man, I loved where you were going with it. And I love that you were like, I mean, and this is true in both scenarios, I guess, but having that 6D Mark II as your backup, like in your second shooter camera, again, like that B cam for, your interviewer, your interviewee, I guess. I feel like I don't know, man. I'm not going to critique what you want to do. But I just feel like, yeah, I mean, 4K is not a necessary thing from an output perspective, but I think from an editing perspective, it's just so useful. And it's something that I've been able to now. Exactly, man. Like just fixing that composition a little bit, doing, some of those minor edits, being able to punch in and not have to worry about it, warp stabilize. Like it's just, it's so nice. And I'd love for you to have
the warp
that.
stabilize is a very good point, because that is something like when I do a lot of gimbal work and stuff as well.
Yeah, man. Even if you really want to punch in, you know what I mean? You want to do something really interesting with transitions or whatever, but hey, man, you know what? Do what you want to do. I just think
I'll consult
personally.
Listen, I respect you. I'll consult you. I respect your opinion.
upgrade for what's next, you know what I mean? Upgrade for what's
true,
next.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, you're talking me into it. Next time I get a big paycheck, I'll be going down to Henry's or VizTech. I don't know, whoever is nicest to me at the time, I suppose.
Nice.
Graham, I might go see Graham. Shout out to Graham at Henry's there, my boy Graham.
Shout out Graham.
Yeah. Do you want to get into the news?
Yeah, man. Let's talk about the news stuff. All right.
Do you want to sing a news song, and then I'll put some reverb on it later, and it'll be a song?
Yeah.
My last one was real heavy, so I'll just shut up and I'll let you do one.
It's the news, and we're going to read it out.
When I used the dude, okay.
Yeah, I literally had nothing to say, and I was like, I'm just gonna like really drag it.
It worked out. I liked it. It was cool. So this is. Oh, don't do that. Careful with that. Guitars are expensive, man. Just like cameras,
I want
guitars.
Some like T-Pain reverb on that. Like great.
Cameras, guitars, and babies. That's a mini list within the episode. Top 3 things to not drop.
Yeah. I think cameras number 1.
Yeah.
Then maybe babies.
Then babies and then guitars. Really? I guess.
Yeah.
Depends on the baby.
Right?
Depends on the baby.
You have a favorite child.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it depends on the baby. Anyways, this is the news, dear listeners. Believe it or not, it's the news, and we have a very interesting, very thought-provoking, perhaps even challenging news story today that we're going to get into. One from myself. Which means that, Michael came up with the topic and I came out with the news story. That checks out. Nice work, Michael, on that I'm reminiscing about it already, but that was a great, great topic that we had. But the news story for today, which hopefully is also great. From BuzzFeed, historically, we've never used BuzzFeed. So I don't know how much we can even trust that this is fact-checked because BuzzFeed is horrible. But anyways, but I did think this article was interesting. And there are some really interesting photos. And later on, I'm going to watch this space here because I'll put some photos there. So from BuzzFeed, these gorgeous photos capture the diversity of new queer photography. And this is an article all about an art director, art curator, tastemaker, art scenester, whatever you want to call him, Benjamin Wahlbergs. And he basically put together a whole bunch of queer photographers and queer artists and dropped kind of a compilation of some very nice queer photography. So basically, he was asking himself, there's a quote here in the article, what would a book with contemporary queer photography look like, right? That's kind of like the inspiration behind this, and kind of taking that whole like lifestyle and movement and everything that it is, the kind of LGBTQ, etc., and through their own eyes, kind of showing their culture and just demonstrating what they're all about through art and through photography. And I dig it, man. I really dig it. These are some really interesting, as I said, thought-provoking photos. Just different than the normal thing that you see, I suppose, right? We see a lot of, especially on Instagram and stuff like that. Everybody's pretty familiar with like portrait photography and whatnot at this point. And this stuff is pretty unique. And I really like the approach here. The variety, obviously, quite a few different photographers, and kind of a window into the personal life of some of these queer people here. And it's cool.
It is, man. No, it's great. Although BuzzFeed, we're teasing a little bit, it's good because it is such a large platform that has a lot of reach. And
good point.
Something I was talking. Yeah, man. And something I was talking to somebody about the other day about was like, I think a lot of what makes people, a part of what can make people uncomfortable is just the fact that it's not like constantly visual within media. So like, when you go to Hallmark Channel, it's always going to be two straight people that are going to have the kiss at the end that the movie's about and whatever. Mm-hmm. When you go on, and we're slowly starting to see this like transition in at least like the typical mainstream media, but we still need to see more. Oh, yeah. And I think like having images like this, and again, like having a BuzzFeed publish this and accumulate these images to have, maybe a Petapixel or even like someone else that maybe has even more of a broad, reach. It's just like we need to get these visuals a bit more people facing, and like we need to just get it like in front of people. We need to normalize it. And I think like literally visual media is what like what a lot of us lean on to develop our opinions, our thoughts, how we feel about things. Mm-hmm. And so I love that, like, through the form of photography, we're talking about something that is doing just that.
Yeah, no, that's a sick way to look at it, man. I'm really excited that you kind of took it in that direction, and we talk a lot about representation and things like that. And, unfortunately, if you look at queer representation in media, it's largely been left in the hands of, either Hollywood or corporations. Now Bud Light and stuff like that is super gay, and Absolute's mad gay now, right, and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like a quota. It's something they have to do.
Right.
It feels that way.
Yeah, and they're kind of tokenizing it or representing it in a certain way where it's just like, especially from a Hollywood perspective, like anytime that there is, some queer character in a movie, it's always presented in a way that's like, I guess, palatable or something to straight people, where it's like, you kind of have to take away some of the substance in order to appeal to, I guess, like what their perception of a wide reach is, or like what a demographic wants. And kind of getting those voices and those perspectives, instead of getting them from the source, they're like filtered through this media landscape that we have. And that's why work like this, like what we're seeing here, these photos are so important, right? Is because this is kind of the unfiltered view, actual queer photographers, actual gay and lesbian models, and trans people, and all of that, that whole culture kind of just being put out there. Have a look, and hopefully it does get more normalized, right?
100%, man. And I love that you brought up, the film industry there and talked about that, because like the other aspect of it is like when they go super stereotypical, and they like pull these like over exaggerated examples of what they think like a queer person acts like, and it's just this copy and paste like expression. And so like you mentioned, man, like having the conveyor of the story, the person with the control actually be someone who can speak to it is like really powerful. A couple of photos, sorry, go ahead.
Or they just get fully sidelined, I think, a lot. Like the biggest trope that I can think of when it comes to like when I try to think of like gay characters, either they're villains like in the Disney movies, like think of Scar or Ursula or whatever. You can kind of get into that, right? Or they're just like sidekicks, and they're just kind of there for the straight person to like be there. They're like the gay best friend type of scenario, right? So not often are they like the center of thing. But you wanted to highlight a couple of photos, right?
Yeah, there were two that I thought like, and don't get me wrong, like they're all great. Like I think they all kind of do something and say something, but I think a couple of photos that artistically I thought were outstanding. There's one by I think the initial image also, I gotta say, Costas Focus. I know we're mispronouncing, that's what we do on this show. But that initial image with the it's the man, it looks like he's holding himself, but it's kind of the message that it's conveying. It's beautiful, just like sitting on the sky background like that, just from like an artistic point of view. I also love this photo by How Nguyen. This is the one where it's like that red light. I think it actually could even be the sun setting.
Yeah.
Just, you see what I'm talking about there? Yeah, and we'll have this up on the screen for sure.
Yeah, we'll put it up. I'll put it up.
But beautiful, obviously lips connecting, and then the light peeking through the middle there. It's almost to like suggest like a moment of like romance and love, and I think that's really beautiful. Like all these photos are great, but those are two that I just thought were like really, really interesting artistically.
Yeah, and drive home, what we're talking about here, about representation and kind of hearing it from the horse's mouth, right? Like we love horse analogies on the podcast for some reason, but I like that. And you wouldn't see, number one, like as we said, you don't see, lesbian, gay people in the media that often. And when you do, it's normally like, if you going back to the example of like Hollywood movies, just because I think that this does like illustrate the point really well. Like, let's say like a lesbian, like compared to this photo of two girls kissing here, right, where it's like very romantic. If you had like a lesbian scene in a movie, it would obviously, especially if it's shot like male director, male cinematographer, which let's be honest, it usually is. The way it's shot is like a male gaze type of thing. Like I was listening to this excellent podcast. I highly recommend you guys check out the Bechtel Cast. One of my favorites. Always intellectually stimulating, and they're very funny. So I definitely recommend that you check them out. But they have an episode out this week on a movie called The Handmaiden, and they were talking about that. It's a movie about two, I guess Japanese or no Korean I hope I get it right. I think they're Korean.
They're in Asia for sure.
It's really important which one, because they're at war at the time. I think it's Korean anyways. Okay. Yeah, it's important. But that they, we're talking to the fact that like, even in a story here where you have the women perspective being told, these like lesbian women having a romantic relationship, and still, male director, male cinematographer, how are the sex scenes kind of being shown, right? So you're still, as much as it's getting some exposure and some things are getting a little bit better, like maybe in places like photography, and that's why I love photography. It doesn't take so many people to make it. That's why I love content as well, right? It doesn't take so many people to make it. It doesn't take, like, we want to say some shit on this podcast, Michael, we just say it. Like, there's nobody that signs off on it, right? I don't ever since episode 1, I made the mistake of editing out like one of your jokes, and ever since then I don't even touch it. Like, we're not like that. Like, we're just, when you guys listen to this, like, know that this stuff is from the heart, right? And know that like, that it's not getting filtered through some like corporate interest or something like that. Not that Michael and I, well, we're gay for each other, I guess, but
you're a good guy, man. I like you, man.
I like you, man.
Another image that kind of speaks to what we're talking about here, and I think like is something that I would love to see frequently. It's something that like normalizes it. It's something that puts into context, like what we've been talking about. This image by, again, I'm going to butcher this, but Bettina Pitaluga. So you have two females. One's kind of just sitting down. The other one's kind of like holding her from behind, and they're kind of like caressing, holding each other. It's just like two normal people sitting down. Like there's nothing like stereotypically oversaturatedly, queer about this that you might see in like a movie where you're painting stereotypes, and like it's we need to like, and there's a culture that we can look at and express, and obviously we do during like times like Pride, and in general it's good to do that. But I think like also just saying like, hey, like through visual media, like we're just normal people. We're all just normal people, and like we just like who we like, and we love who we love, and we express how we want to express. But like these are just, I love it because they're just two normal people who are just sitting there, and like this is how we need to. These are the kind of images that we need to like put out there, and like to help change, the mentality of some of these closed-minded people. Yeah, is just like, like we're all normal. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing really different about us,
Yeah, the more that like that diversity is out there, and people are comfortable being themselves, the more that like you said, those ultra conservative people just kind of have to get over it, because at a certain point, like, it's not going away.
Yeah.
These people are who they are, right? And, we are who we are. So anyways, it's very, as I said, thought-provoking work. Highly recommend that you go and check out the article. I'll make sure that I link that down below if you're here on YouTube. If not, just go search gorgeous photos capture diversity of new queer photography. Kind of a mouthful. You can search that on the internet. That should bring up this BuzzFeed article. I'm feeling kind of hungry, and I was doing research and setting up the set earlier. Didn't really get time to eat a whole lot, chug down a smoothie, but I think I'm gonna go and get something to eat, Michael.
Do that, man. Do that. Stuff that come.
Yeah. It's been an excellent episode, and I hope that all of our listeners, truly our dear listeners out there, truly enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoy bringing this podcast to you each and every week. And we'll have a great guest for you next week. I don't know who it is yet, but we're gonna figure that out. Awesome. Before we go, we have to thank some people. Who do you want to thank, Michael?
I want to thank my co-host here, Jared Poirier. Want to thank whoever's editing this.
We'll go with Arrow. It's probably Arrow.
Arrow. Great name, by the way. If you're watching, you're gonna watch this because you're editing. Great name.
His brother Quiver is a badass.
Oh man. Man,
Bo,
I gotta speak to these parents for like name ideas down the line. Yeah. Awesome, man. That's thank you for editing all of this nonsense into comprehensible shows.
Yeah, if any of this makes sense, it's probably thanks to Arrow. So
yeah. Yeah, man. Who do you want to thank? Who else do you want to thank?
I want to thank Melissa McCarthy. I watched what's that movie called? The Kitchen the other night.
Okay.
Good movie. Good movie. It's good.
Okay.
I liked it. Yeah, gangster movie, but with chicks. So if you want to watch that, if you want to watch some chicks, do some gangster stuff, see Melissa McCarthy, do some dramatic acting. Check her out.
Nice.
Also, thank you to my dog Sonia for being quiet during the podcast. Thank you to Michael's cat Cusco for not throwing up on the bed during the podcast. Thank you to my girlfriend Masha. You can check her out. Fiance. She gets mad if I call her my girlfriend. I gotta call her my fiance. My fiance Masha. Check out Masha and the Dogs. Great podcast all about historical dogs. You can also check out. Okay, this is a crazy thing. So if you want to see Michael react to music, you go to Michael Costa Music, right? If you want to see me react to music, I just started a new project where I'm reacting to music over on the Jared Poirier channel. So you can check me out there. First episode is already out, and we're going to be talking about metal over there, which I'm very excited about. And I think that's it, man. I think that's all the things that I need to say right now.
I'm glad, man. I'm glad you said all the things that you wanted to say now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you for a good show. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to this show.
Yeah.
And man, is there anything else we got to say? Anything else? Usually outro it. I just don't want to mess this up,
I'm gonna say number one. Number one. What's number one? Stay creative. Number one. Number two, be true to yourself. You can never go wrong.
Wow. Well, on those two, be creative, stay true to yourself, and stay tuned for another episode of the PHOTOBROS podcast. Sayonara.